Generally, well, there's kind of two parts to that question. It's always fine, I think, to use kind of the graphical user interface when you're learning new things. I think generally when you're working in production, depending on the size or the scale of what it is you're building, it's normally better to use automation tools than any sort of GUI. And I think that's especially true if the size of your team scales as well. You know, if you're an individual operator, you've obviously got the freedom to do things however you want to because you're the only person you need to think about. But I think you'll still quite quickly come up against some of the limitations of doing things in a sort of manual, repetitive way through any sort of graphical user interface. So using the command line is fine. We then would normally recommend some sort of automation of the command line as well. There are tools such as Customize, for example, Helm. We talk about these in the course. But more broadly, what we see at AppsBroker is, you know, any sort of production infrastructure, we always recommend using infrastructure as code. So essentially declaring all of your infrastructure, including all of your workloads in code, in YAML, and applying them through some sort of CI/CD process, storing everything in a source code repository. So you've got that living documentation, and then using automation tools to deploy everything. So you've got kind of a repeatable process for how you're deploying things, and it's also much easier to audit what's actually being done. Specifically on Kubernetes, I would say as well, the built-in GUI for Kubernetes, the Kubernetes dashboard that you can run with native Kubernetes, is very difficult to secure. If you're using GK, so if you're using Google's Kubernetes engine specifically, Google's own graphical user interface is very good, and obviously that is secure. But if you're using native Kubernetes, then the built-in dashboard, I would probably not recommend using that. It'd be better to learn with the command line and then introduce some automation tools after that.